Hey, Gender Queer Chat, Joe here. It is, I don't know, August 16th or 17th or 18th? 18th? What happened in the week? Okay, so I've been really sick. I had bronchitis for something like 12 days. And I went camping in the rain with bronchitis. Don't even ask me why. I'm stupid. And I went on this stupid hike. We hiked up this ravine, and I have a digital pedometer. I think I showed you guys this last time. My little, tells you how many flights of stairs. Like today I've climbed 9 flights of stairs. Anyways, I climbed 27 that day, and I have asthma to start with, so compromised lungs, and it was brutal, and I wrecked my lungs, and I'm paying the price. Hey, look what I have. Narcotic cough syrup. So, all that being said, I'm back in the land of the living, and I'm sorry I missed last week. I was camping, and by the time I got back, I was just really sick, so my bad. I should have gotten a sub, but I didn't. Okay, so this week's topic is how accepted do you feel in your local queer communities, especially if you are read as a straight men or women, and I am typically read as a straight woman, I think, some of the time. And even back when I identified as a straight woman, I'm just going to adjust this. Even back in those days, I always felt accepted in the queer community, always. And it was kind of strange because my first outings as my first kind of when I was 18, I moved out and I went, I think, to just local bars and stuff like that. And I was living kind of a hetero life. I had a boyfriend. But when I was 19, I moved to Toronto, and I had kind of, for the first time in my life, I kind of was in a city by myself where I didn't really know anyone. And I had to kind of make friends, and it was hard. I'll never forget this. I actually had met this guy once before through a girl I knew named Ginny. Her roommate, Brian, was roommates with a guy named Dwayne. And I think I'd met them on Gay Pride one summer. I forget how I'd met them. I must have met them on Gay Pride one summer. Like the summer I moved to Toronto. And then we hit it off, but we didn't like exchange. And I think I must have had his phone number somehow. But it wasn't like he was my friend. But I remember one night I cold called him, and then I chickened out and I pretended that I had a wrong number. But this was like back in the days when call display was brand new, and he called me right back. I think I hung up, and I said, oh, I had dialed the wrong number. And I said, oh, this is Joe, Ginny's friend. And somehow we became great friends. Dwayne ended up moving in with me at one point. He was my roommate for a little while, but through him, I met everybody that I knew in Toronto. All the years I lived in Toronto, it was all just directly through Dwayne. And I just lived the life, as I said, I lived the life of a gay man the entire time I lived in Toronto. All I did was go to gay bars. All my friends were gay. And it was never really like a problem that I was a straight woman. Like, no one ever gave me a hard time about it, or nobody ever really saw me as anything other than, I guess, an ally at that time. Or I was called a fag hag or a fruit fly. Those were the other names they frequently call straight women who hang around with gay men. And I looked very dykey, I guess, if there was a butch dyke look that I had going on. I had a shaved head. I didn't wear makeup. I wore army boots a lot of the time. And I didn't ever apologize for that, or I didn't feel the need to femme it up, ever, really. And no one ever gave me a hard time about it. I think maybe it was just the early 90s, and it was the grunge era, and people just dressed that way, and it was no big deal. I think something's really happened in the last 20 years where girls are just, if you look in women's clothing nowadays, it's just so different than it was 20 years ago. You know, in the early 90s, women's clothing, had sleeves. Women wore socks. Women wore socks back in the 90s, You never see women in socks anymore. They're always wearing little skimpy heels and little skimpy outfits, and everything's skimpy, skimpy, skimpy. And I think, I wore turtlenecks and flannel shirts and jeans and socks and army boots, That was it. So back in those days, there would oftentimes I would be the only woman in the bar, and I'd be dancing or hanging out, or I'd be just shooting the shit. I remember this one guy, what the heck was his name? Jamie? That wasn't his name. But we would sit and just kind of talk about everybody on the dance floor, and he'd make up little stories about them, and there's a closet case from Woodbridge who took the GO train down from the suburbs, and we just laugh and laugh and laugh like that. We just always had a good time. When I left Toronto and moved back to Hamilton, actually, even prior to that, when I was about 18 or 19, I went to a couple of gay clubs in Hamilton, the city that I grew up in. And yeah, I do remember it just always being a part of my life. I don't ever remember it not being a part of my life, and I don't ever remember it being a problem. I don't ever remember feeling like a fish out of water, even though I technically did not fit in. I remember women occasionally hitting on me in bars and being kind of scandalized by it because I didn't know how to react, and I was never ever like, homophobic, out grossed out, oh my god, some woman. I was just more, I would feel the same way if a guy that I was not attracted to hit on me. It's the same sort of reaction, like how do you kind of let someone down easy? That was more, I guess, what I had going on. Nowadays, I'm much older. I just watched Christina's video, and she was saying something about like she belongs to a youth group, and I'm too old for a youth group, so I don't know that I would join any sort of queer community now. I don't go to bars. I'm not into the bar scene. I don't know of any gay community center in this area. I mean, there's probably one in Hamilton, but that's an hour away. There's probably one in Niagara Falls, but that's also an hour away. I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere. I live in the country, so it's kind of a different life that I lead, right? I don't have a queer community. Back in the early 2000s, I remember, because I have a friend named Lila. I've mentioned Lila in previous videos. She was Queer of the Year one year in Hamilton. She's very big in the queer community. She somehow roped my sister into doing sound and me into doing stage managing for Gay Pride one year in Hamilton. And I remember it was, I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never done anything. I'm not a theater person. I don't understand, but I did it. And it was really overwhelming. But it was just kind of understood that I was going to go to Pride and I was going to pitch in, which is just kind of funny, which would imply that I am a part of the community. I don't use the word queer to describe myself. I don't pretend to be anything than what you see, whatever you want to call this, who is attracted to typically men. Well, almost always men. And, that is regularly perceived to be cisgendered female, heterosexual female. Hi, Eli. Eli's been really sick, too. You want to come up and say hi? Come on. Come on. Say hi to everybody. Skinny little monkey. Here he comes. Hi, darling. So do you remember Eli almost died in March? This is Eli. Hi, sweetie. Say hi. He had pancreatitis. He'll be 18 in January. Eli. So, and you can probably also hear him breathing because he's got breathing problems. So yeah, that was my how accepted do I feel in the queer community. I've always wondered if the queer community is that accepting of everyone. Like if you kind of show up at the scene with even just slightly, allied tendencies, would you be that embraced with open arms as I was all those years and in, under so many different circumstances and by so many different people? My guess is yes, that the queer community is very, very accepting. I just want to touch, did I want to touch on last week's topic? I don't even remember what it was. Oh, pet names. I just wanted to touch on that quickly because I missed it last week. And I did want to say that I have a nasty habit of calling everybody by gendered pet names. I don't know that it's gendered though. I call everybody hun or my dear. And that was something I picked up when I lived up north because I lived with a bunch of Newfoundlanders. And Newfoundlanders call, I wish I could do the accent, I'm not very good at it, but they call everybody my dear, my dear. And what are you doing, my dear? And it just became a habit. And now, because of the nature of my job and because I work a lot with a lot of, like I'm in classrooms, I'm in schools every day, bumping into people whose names I don't know, whose faces I may or may not recognize, but 99% of the time I can't remember who they are or where I know them from. And I never remember their names. So I think there's something about me, I strive to be a warm and inclusive person. I like to be known as someone who's very, when you see me on the street, I'm going to be very nice and friendly to you, even if I don't remember your name. And the easiest way to do that is to call someone my dear. And I'll say something like, hey, how have you been, my dear? I haven't seen you in forever. Oh, geez, it's been a while. Like I say stuff like that all the time. And I don't know if that's gendered, because I think I do it to men as much as I do it to women. But a lot of men, I think, are, I want to say disarmed by it, but also relatively insulted by it, because it really is... Okay, Eli's eating my leftover cereal. He'll eat anything. That cat will eat anything. I think some people might be insulted by it, like it's too familiar, and it's too, what's the word? I kind of put myself in a position of power. When you call someone a pet name, you're basically putting them, what's the word I'm looking for? At a position underneath you. Anyway, my monkey, I love you, I miss you. So yeah, you're basically putting them, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you wouldn't really call your boss my dear, but I do. I always do. I just call everybody my dear. Okay, one other thing I wanted to mention. A couple other things I wanted to mention. Tomorrow, I am going backpack camping in Algonquin Park in Ontario, which is something I've wanted to do my whole life. And this is number one on my list of 40 things to do in my 40s. And what it basically entails, I've been like saving up, I've been preparing for this trip my whole life. I've been collecting little things that are for backpacking trips, you know, like things like little lightweight pots and pans and camp stove that's a beer can and, you know, flashlights. And I have a first aid kit that I meticulously assembled over years and years with, like, you know, a sewing kit and bug spray, wipes, you name it. I'm prepared. I'm ultra prepared. So it's something I've always wanted to do, but I'm on the heels of a bad case of bronchitis and I have to backpack, I don't know how many pounds, 5 kilometers to a lake. So we'll see how that goes. I'll let you know next week. The other thing I want to just say briefly is I think we are on the hunt for new questions. So if you guys have any ideas of questions you want us to topics you want us to deal with every week, please submit them either via the email or just in the comments. Excuse me. But also, we were looking for fluffy topics too. So maybe every week we'll do like a serious genderqueer chat topic, and then we'll do a kind of get to know you fluffy topic. I love those. We did those back in the day. We haven't done them in a while, but hopefully we do those. So see you guys later. Bye-bye.